And if you're thinking, but Jim, what's the big deal about that? I've seen Fly daily. Every time he sees a StuG, he just shoot the driver viewport, right? They basically made this thing with armor model and everything, making this thing a volumetric hell. 50mm sitting on top of another 50mm, that is sitting on top of another 50mm plate right here, with a very small window. How the hell did that bounce off me? What the? Oh. Give me something else. Thank you. I bounced the Italian 90mm. Hey guys, it's Jim here. Now welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Generals but it's warthunder. And in today's video, we are moving up the line of tank destroyer, and in today's video, we are looking at the sturmgeshutz 3G or StuG 3G, and it's basically a case-made tank destroyer that's based on the Panzer III hull, as you can see. But rather than a Panzer III, I would rather describe this thing more of a Panzer IV-H without the turret. Now let me break it down to you and then I will show you why. Now first things first, armor. You have 80mm upper front plate as indicated up here. But the thing is, Gaijin actually made a few changes to the armor without telling anybody. Well, firstly, it's pretty straightforward. You have 50mm up here that's sitting underneath another 30mm plate right here, making it 80mm. And if you're thinking, but Jim, what's the big deal about that? I've seen Fly daily. Every time he sees a StuG, he just shoot the driver viewport, right? Well, here's the next change that they made without anyone's knowledge. They basically made this thing with armor model and everything, making this thing a volumetric hell. As you can see, 50mm sitting on top of another 50mm, that is sitting on top of another 50mm plate right here, with a very small window. And if you're thinking, why not just shoot the bottom half? Well, there's also this thing right here, 30mm, so yeah, you are not getting through this anytime soon. Now the unfortunate part is that the same cannot be said about the other side, the loader side of the vehicle. They can actually shoot this, penetrate, and unfortunately that's where your ammo storage are. And as you can see, there's a lot of ammo right here. Doesn't help either that 2 out of 3 of these ammo storage are first stage, so doesn't matter how little of ammo you carry, there are going to be ammunition up in here. And then moving on, one thing that does make this thing a little bit scarier is this. The Panzer IV-H has this weak spot right here, 20mm with the track armor on top of it. Not a lot to go through, but unlike the Panzer IV-H, yeah. Have fun trying to penetrate this when it's sloped at 86 degrees. Now there's also other areas right here. There's 30mm sitting on top of another 50mm plate right here. As well as down here, 30mm sitting on top of another, if I can get it, 50mm up here. So it's a lot to go through, but the best part is that should the run actually does penetrate this, that's not really a big deal because the transmission will just eat everything. So 80mm doesn't really seem a lot, but here's the good news though. Unlike the one in Heroes and Generals, you do have the option to have additional armor, which will essentially make the upper front plate 100mm, as you can see, and another 20mm track up here on top of the 80mm plate. So yeah, this is a very dangerous spot to shoot now, 100mm, especially at long range where a lot of guns you come across don't exactly have that kind of penetration. Now there are a few spots you need to keep in mind when you're playing this thing. Firstly, this thing right here is the loader side of the upper front plate, and unfortunately there's a spot that's big enough for the shell to actually go through and detonate your ammunition. But the good news is that thankfully this can be rectified by putting any kind of decorator on it, like jerry can or whatever decorator item you got from the battle pass for free. And another weak spot to be careful of is this. Like, sure, maybe Sherman 75mm can't get through this, but unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the T-34 76 APHE BC can go right through this, because you know, Soviet. Now another spot to be careful of is this. Unfortunately, this StuG 3G is the mid-war version of the StuG, not the late war version where the gun barrel is this weird curvy thing that you see on the headset. So unfortunately 50mm right here that has no slope whatsoever, it's really not a lot to go right through this. And why is this a concern? That is because this thing right here is your gun bridge sticking outside of the tank. So as you can probably tell, like sure, if they do manage to penetrate this, your crewmen are very much safe, but you can't really shoot back. And then finally, one more weak spot to be very careful of, this is something I found out the hard way, is this thing right here. 30mm commander hash curve in pretty much every direction, so this is really not allowed to go right through, especially since T-34 APHE BC, Sherman 75mm APC BC shell. Any shell that has explosive filler can just penetrate this and take out 3 out of 4 crewmen right there. And so how's the mobility on this thing? It really can't be that fast given all this armor, right? Well, here's the thing though. Sure, it may be about as fast as the Hetzer. The good news is that the engine is way more powerful than the Hetzer, and even though it's pulling 24 tons, 300 horsepower engine, building up to speed is really not an issue in this thing. And not to mention the traverse on this thing, you can make that 180-degree turn very quickly in this thing. And as well as your tracks, you have the option to get the Ausketten, so driving off-road will not be an issue. As well as your reverse gear, it's actually not too bad, 7.5 km an hour, more or less the same as every other Panzer IV you see in this battle rating. And then moving on the firepower on this thing, like pretty much every other Panzer you see in the German Tech Tree in this battle rating, Panzer IV-H, Panzer IV-J, this is more or less using the same gun, the 75mm Sturmkanon 40 L40A cannon, and of course with the 75mm Ghost, this is the shell that will be firing, the armor-piercing cap ballistic cap shell that pens up to 145mm of armor at point blank, with sending grams of explosive mass. And again, at battle rating 4.0, this is a very devastating round to use, and again of course, be very careful about the explosive mass, because there are some tanks that are a little bit more spaced out, that the explosive mass in this shell will not be able to cut it. Now you do have access to APC, that pens up to 182mm of armor at point blank, but then again, most of the time you'll be using the APC BC shell, so if you want to carry some, be my guest, like EV10 or something. Now something to keep in mind is that this thing unfortunately doesn't have a machine gun. Do not pay attention to this is just me putting a DP27 on this thing for fun. So my advice is please bring a few high explosive, maybe 5 shells or something, in case you come across one of those annoying SPAs, milk trucks or whatever. And of course, maybe a few smoke shells, and that's entirely up to you. And then moving on the other aspects of the gun, you can carry up to 54 rounds of ammunition. I just say bring as many as you want because it's really not gonna matter. You bring less, there's gonna be some shells up in here. Not to mention again, these are first stage ammo up here, so doesn't matter if you bring less or more, there's gonna be shells up here where the weak spot is. So it really doesn't matter, you want to bring all 54, be my guess. Reloading rate on this thing 6.2 seconds. I did manage to bump this down from 7.6 seconds using expert crew with maxed out leadership and weapon reloading. But yeah, 6.2 seconds, that is actually more or less on par with Panzer IV-H as well as some Sherman 75mm and T-34 76s. The scary part about this thing is that even though the reload is on par with those tanks, it is still a very powerful gun. Vertical guidance negative 6 decreased gun depression. It's a little bit lacking unfortunately, but the good news is that unlike the Panzer IV-H, as you can see, the gun is actually a much lower profile, so it does make up for the lack of gun depression a little bit. And finally, no gun stabilizer, but for some reason this gun doesn't really seem to bounce too much, no matter how much you're moving, so it's not really a big deal whether or not you have a gun stabilizer. And so there you have it, this is the StuG 3G. And how does this compare with the one in Heroes and Generals? Again, like the Hetzer and the Panther G, there is really no competition. Like firstly, you only have a fixed 18mm plate right here, there's no additional armor whatsoever, as well as it doesn't have a slope, so that means it doesn't have the privilege to use the very broken angled armor mechanic that they implemented. And not to mention, if you're thinking about playing hold down with this thing, like, buddy, I gotta tell you, the gun is part of the hull, so how are you supposed to play hold down when you're gonna be exposing a hull anyway? I mean, I get it, like, firstly, the gun breach is very hard to knock out in Heroes and Generals because it's using the late war curvy piece of gun mantlet armor right here, as well as the side skirts armor actually works against anti-tank rockets, despite the fact that it's meant for anti-tank rifles. But unfortunately, the killing point of the one in Heroes and Generals, we can agree that this is a Panzer III, right? A Panzer III with 80mm upper front plate armor, right? Why the hell did Rito give this thing light tank health pool is really beyond me. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about StuG 3G. Now let's take this thing on the battle, and let's uphold this thing's reputation as having the highest KD ratio in real life, shall we? Not today, buddy. Thank you, teammate. Don't do it. I know you have a super long ass reload. Or do you need my help? Damn it, stupid SPA. Oh no, this M22. Why did you do that? It's just a Chinu. I do not like the sound I'm hearing from here. Give me something else. Thank you.
Panzer, 12 Uhr, Entfernung, 600 Meter. Panzergranate geladen! Ziel beschädigt!
There we go. I wonder if that's the Chino Chito or whatever from earlier.
Panzergranate geladen!
I bounced the Italian 99, 90mm.
Feuerbereitschaft! Ziel getroffen! Panzergranate geladen! Oder! Verstanden! Allied forces have captured a zone. Panzer, 12 Uhr, Entfernung, 650 Meter. Ziel getroffen! Panzergranate geladen!
Where are you going?
Brenngranate laden. Ziel beschädigt! Unterwegs! Panzergranate, laden! Panzergranate geladen!
Thank you. Oh my goodness, that guy is annoying.
Panzergranate geladen! Ziel zerstört! Flakpanzer! 12 Uhr! Entfernung! 600 Meter! Brenngranate geladen! Getroffen! Brenngranate geladen! Getroffen! Attention to the designated grid square. Panzergranate laden!
There's only 1 minute on.
Panzergranate geladen! Getroffen! Radfahrer, schneller! Ziel getroffen! Ziel zerstört!
Oh, you got it. Nice, 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 nice. Too bad.
Radfahrer, auf, auf! Radfahrer, schneller!
Come on, look over. Don't feel me now. Give me a low profile, you're feeling me now.
Panzergranate geladen! Panzergranate geladen! Ziel zerstört!
Oh.
Radfahrer, auf, auf! Ziel zerstört! Panzergranate geladen!
There's someone else on there. I think that's a yes. Dude. Too many dead people here, god damn it. Let me in, KV2. Where's your friend to your right? I can hear him. Sorry. Here's something approaching from in front. A little bit. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of them over there. Yeah, you sure you want to do that, bro?